Parlons français ensemble.
Imagine this scenario. You've just landed in a brand new French city, bags dragging behind you, you're buzzing, ready to explore, maybe find that amazing little bakery you read about. But hang on, there's that first big question. How do you actually get around using public transport? Like, what words do you even need? Are there rules people just know?
Well, that's exactly what we're tackling today. We're doing a deep dive to give you a bit of a shortcut, really, to feeling confident on French public transport.
Yeah.
We've pulled out the most useful bits, the real essentials, from a French language learning resource, not just words, but the crucial context, too.
Exactly. Our goal here is pretty straightforward. We want to equip you with the key vocabulary, yes, but also the practical phrases you'll actually use. And maybe just as important, those cultural insights, the sort of unspoken rules to make sure your trips on the bus, the metro, the tramway, they're all smooth, efficient, and, well, you avoid any awkwardness or fines.
Fines, yeah, nobody wants those. Definitely not. So it's really more than just translation. It's about getting a feel for this system, the etiquette. We'll aim for a calm, clear approach as we go through it all.
Okay, let's get into it then. Probably the very first thing, right, when you arrive somewhere new, figuring out how to buy a ticket. It can feel a bit daunting. Our source actually has this really helpful little dialogue. Yeah, it sets up a typical scene. So you've got someone, a client, asking an employee at a station, "Bonjour Lamine, où puis-je acheter un ticket de métro?" Most gonna there. Let's hear that again, a bit slower. "Bonjour Lamine, où puis-je acheter un ticket de métro?" Which is just, hello, where can I buy a metro ticket? Simple enough. And the employee gives the main options. Vous pouvez acheter un ticket à la machine ou au guichet. Again, vous pouvez acheter un ticket à la machine or au guichet.
Right, and even in the short exchange, there's some good stuff. It highlights the two main places, the automated machine, la machine, which is often quicker if you know what you want, and le guichet, the ticket counter with a person, which is great if you need help or advice.
And it mentions the metro. What are the other main types of transport we need the words for?
Good question. So, based on the source and just general knowledge of French cities, you'll mainly run into three. First, a metro. Slowly. A metro. That's your subway, your underground, usually the quickest way across big cities like Paris, Lyon, Marseille. And you have un tramway. Trams. You see these more and more. They're often modern, smooth, above ground, connecting different parts of the city. And finally, a bus. Un bus. The bus covers pretty much everywhere else, all the local routes. Slower, maybe, but you get a view.
Okay, metro, tramway, bus. Got it. And we need un ticket.
Un ticket, yes. That's the general word for a ticket.
So going back to that dialogue, the person asks where to buy one, but let's say you're at the counter, the guichet. What's the best way to actually ask for the ticket politely?
Ah, yes. The source gives us a really standard polite phrase for that. You'd say, "Je voudrais un ticket de métro, s'il vous plaît." Let's repeat that. "Je voudrais un ticket de métro, s'il vous plaît." Which means, I would like a metro ticket, please. Very useful. Je voudrais. I would like. It's always a good, polite way to ask for something.
Makes sense.
Je voudrais. Exactly. Oh, and something worth mentioning about tickets while we're on it. Well, you can buy un ticket, a single one. It's very common, especially if you'll be using transport a bit, to buy un carnet. That's C-A-R-N-E-T.
A carnet. What's that?
It's basically a little cardboard pack of usually 10 individual tickets. You often get a small discount compared to buying 10 single tickets separately. Saves time queuing up, too. So a good practical tip from the source materials context.
Nice. Okay. Un carnet. Good to know. So you've got your ticket or your carnet. You're feeling pretty good. What next? Is that it?
Ah, no. And this is probably one of the most important things the source emphasizes. This is where things get really crucial, actually. You have the ticket, but you absolutely must validate it.
Validate. Okay, what does that mean in practice?
The French phrase is valider son ticket. Slowly. Valider son ticket. It means to validate your ticket. And unlike some transport systems where maybe you just show it or the barrier takes it, in France, you generally have to actively insert your ticket into a machine before you board or as you enter the paid area of a station.
Okay, before you board.
Yes. And I can't stress this enough, you must do this. It's not optional. If you get checked by inspectors, les contrôleurs, and your ticket isn't validated, you can get a pretty hefty fine even if you have a perfectly valid ticket in your pocket. They're quite strict about it.
Wow. Okay, so where are these machines?
For the metro, they're usually part of the entry turnstiles. For buses and trams, there's typically a small machine on board near the doors that you put your ticket into as soon as you get on. For trains, though, especially regional or intercity ones, it's a bit different. You need to look for a specific machine, usually on the platform before you board. It's often yellow, sometimes gray, and it's called a composteur. Let's say that again. Composteur. It stamps the date and time on your ticket. Forgetting this is a really common mistake for visitors.
Right. The composteur on the platform for trains. Got it. That feels like a really key piece of insider info.
It really is. It avoids a lot of potential stress.
Okay, so ticket bought, ticket validated. Now let's say we need directions. How does that typically work? Our source had that example dialogue continuing, right? The person wanted to get to the Eiffel Tower.
Yes, exactly. So after the ticket part, the client asks, presumably, how to get there. And the employee gives very clear, concise instructions. They said, Prenez la ligne 6, direction Charles de Gaulle Étoile, et descendez à Bir Hakeim. Let's break that down slowly. Prenez la ligne 6, direction Charles de Gaulle Étoile, et descendez à Bir Hakeim. So take line 6, then crucially, direction Charles de Gaulle Étoile. That tells you which way the train on line 6 should be heading towards its final stop, Charles de Gaulle Étoile. Then, et descendez à Bir Hakeim, and get off at Bir Hakeim.
Very direct. Line number, end destination for direction, and your stop.
Precisely. You'll see the direction displayed on the front of trains and on signs on the platform, Le Quai. That's how you know you're getting on the right train going the right way.
And speaking of Le Quai, the platform, you mentioned earlier un arrêt for a bus or tram stop.
Yes, that's right. So un arrêt is the stop for buses and trams, usually just marked by a signpost. But for metros and trains where you wait on a platform, the word is le quai.
Okay, arrêt for bus tram, quai for metro train. Useful distinction.
And notice the verb used in the directions, prenez, from prendre, meaning to take. The source points out a little grammatical nuance here. When talking about taking transport, you almost always use prendre, followed by le, la, or les, the definite article.
Ah, okay. So not prendre un bus, but prendre le bus.
Generally, yes, like you're taking the specific mode of transport. So prendre le bus, say it again, prendre le bus, or prendre le métro. The source gives the example, je prends le métro tous les jours. Je prends le métro tous les jours. I take the subway every day. It just sounds more natural in French.
Good tip. Little things like that make a difference. Okay, so we know how to ask for a ticket, how to validate it, how to understand directions. But what if I'm just standing on a street corner, totally lost, and I need to find the bus stop? How do I ask that?
Simplest way is, où est l'arrêt de bus? Again, où est l'arrêt de bus? Where is the bus stop? Nice and straightforward. For the metro, you'd probably ask, où est la station de métro, or just look for the big M signs.
Okay, that covers a lot of the practical stuff. But you mentioned cultural insights earlier. Our source had something called a clin d'œil culturel.
Yes, the cultural wink.
Clin d'œil culturel.
Right. And this one is quite interesting, I think. The source highlights that in France, particularly on the metro in Paris, people tend to be pretty quiet.
Quiet? How so?
Well, it's generally considered polite not to have loud conversations, either with people you're traveling with or especially on your mobile phone. It's quite a noticeable difference compared to, say, public transport in some other countries.
Huh. So keep the phone calls brief and quiet.
Exactly. It's about respecting the shared space, letting others travel in relative peace. You might get some discreet but noticeable glances if you're being too loud. It's not a strict rule like validation, obviously, but it's definitely part of the expected etiquette.
That's really fascinating. It's sort of an unwritten rule.
It is. And it ties back in a way to that idea of individual responsibility within the collective space. Like the expectation that you'll validate your own ticket using the composteur without being constantly watched. There's a certain level of trust, but also clear expectations about behavior. Understanding these nuances helps you blend in, feel more comfortable, and just have a smoother experience overall.
So it really is about more than just the words. It's the whole social context, isn't it? Understanding the system, the rules, both written and unwritten, and how people interact within that space.
Precisely. So wrapping things up from our deep dive today, you've hopefully picked up some really crucial, practical knowledge for getting around in France. We've covered essential words like en métro, en arrêt, le quai, en ticket.
Un carnet. How to ask for things politely using je voudrais. How to understand directions with the line, direction, and stop.
And, critically, the absolute necessity of valider son ticket, validating your ticket, and remembering the composteur for trains. Plus that cultural insight about keeping things relatively quiet on the metro.
Yeah, so hopefully you're feeling a bit more equipped now. You've got the tools to navigate those French cities more confidently, handle the ticket situation, avoid those fines, and even fit in with the local flow a bit better. It's not just about getting from A to B. It's kind of a mini cultural immersion every time you hop on a bus or metro.
Absolutely. And perhaps a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. How does this French emphasis on, say, quietness in shared public transport spaces and the very strict approach to ticket validation compare with your own experiences back home or in other places you've traveled? What might those differences, subtle or not so subtle, suggest about wider cultural values concerning public behavior, trust, and individual responsibility within a community? It's interesting stuff to think about beyond just the practicalities.